Hello, everyone. Here we are today for week three of the Summer Spice. The Summer Spice is basically a 4 week LinkedIn live series where in June every week I invite expert guests on the live series, and each week we go more in depth on different kind of topics. So I kickstarted this with Yasmin, and we spoke about all things that work on LinkedIn in 2025. In session two, we had Aisha on board who spoke about how to design a standout LinkedIn personal brand on LinkedIn. And if you've missed any of the sessions before, you can go to my profile and go under events and watch all the replays. So, I am your host, Gunjan. I am basically a LinkedIn coach and ghostwriters for coaches, consultants, and CEOs. And today in the hot seat, we have Eileen with us. Eileen here is a video coach for founders and creators, and she helps them turn into leaders through videos. So, hi, Eileen. How are you? I'm so excited, and thank you so much for doing this. Let us let you. I'll leave this floor to you and let you introduce yourself to the audience here.
Hi, Ganchan, and everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm feeling really bubbly today. It's so exciting to speak to everyone and to talk about video. I mean, I never say no to that. So, as you mentioned, I turn founders into thought leaders with video. So, what I do is that most founders or the founders I work with, they're, comfortable on a stage. Some of them have even been on TV, but when they sit down and they have their phone in front of them and they're supposed to record on their own, it's completely different. So I help them translate that presence with backed by strategy so that they can make videos that align with their brand and resonates with their ideal clients.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for so much for sharing that. So during the session, what happens is I have already prepared a list of questions for Elaine here, but the audience here, feel free to ask your own questions and have the chat ongoing, and then I'll pick up random questions from the chat itself and address them to Elaine. But before we go more in depth, I would want to know, like, if you're already creating videos for LinkedIn, let us know. I do not, so probably I'll learn a lot from Eileen today. But feel free to share, like, if you are already working on videos or no. So let's go. By the time we have the answers, let's go through some of the questions here. So, Eileen, I want to know your your own personal journey with video creation. So, how did that happen, and how has your own relationship with being on camera changed over the years? And what is one thing, if you can point out that helped you to evolve over the years?
Very good question. Very good question. So, before I started my own business, I worked with social media and building brands for about 7 years. And before that, I even had my own blog that I ran. So I've been doing it for a really long time, but for work, for about 7, 8 years. And I mainly focused the last couple of years of my employment, I focused on TikTok and making videos there. And then when I started my own business, I was really hesitant, like I'm a private person. I don't want to show up on video. I started posting text posts and images, of course, on LinkedIn. And then I realized that if I'm going to help people make videos, I kind of need to do this journey on my own too. Because otherwise, how would I be able to help people? Even if I had done it before, sitting there as a founder is a completely different thing than filming like people for a brand, for example, because there I had models. Now I had myself as a founder and other founders who needed to be the spokesperson for the brand. So I started and I was terrified, like everybody else, when I sat there and I looked back at my video and thought it looked nothing like what I had imagined. So it was a long, iterative process of trial and error. And one of the big things that really changed it for me was scripting. And I know people have a lot of things against that. Many people do, but I see scripting as a way for me to break down storytelling into a structure that I can understand. And this is also the way I use it because storytelling can be this mythological creature. that we hear everyone talking about, but nobody really knows what it is. So I decided to make some kind of structure that I could follow to make my messaging more concise, easy for the viewer to understand, and easier for me to deliver because there are so many other things we had to do on video, right? We're not just talking, we're using our body language, we have facial expressions, and we want to represent ourselves as the professionals we are. So, in my own journey, I found these different tricks, patterns, processes, and then I got a question from a client whom I think I was supposed to help him with something else, but he asked for coaching. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So that's how it all started. And this was beyond a year into my journey. So
Wow.
that's how it all went.
I love it. I love it. And did you get your client through LinkedIn? Was it?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
LinkedIn has always been my main platform since I stumbled
Right.
upon it, met my best friend here,
Mhm.
and so many business partners and associates that I still work with to this day.
Wow, amazing. That's why I love the platform. It's like amazing. So
Mm,
thank you for sharing your own journey. So I would like to go more in depth about like how what your process looks like.
yeah.
So, from like ideation to actually publishing those videos, do you have any kind of workflows or tools that you swear by? Like, run me a bit about your own process of making videos.
Yeah. So what I usually do, now I know my ICP really well. So this is something that I always base it upon, and I don't look at only what they're like as like gender, location, their professional title. They're usually things like the way, what does their ego look like? What does their identity, how do they look at themselves? Like things like identity is really important to understand in terms of really pinpointing and approaching different topics and in a way that your ideal clients, that resonates with them. So having that in mind, my first step is to look at what type of videos I want to do and what type of levels of the funnel I want to hit. So if we're doing more of a top of funnel video, that would be for new eyes. So let's say people who see my content for the very first time. Now, that would be a different video than, let's say, we were doing a middle of funnel content that would allow me to nurture those who are already followers. And a bottom of funnel content would ideally convert people into either a call, a lead magnet, or something like that to take some other action than giving you a follow. So deciding on what level of funnel you want to speak to, and then I would pick topics that I want to talk about and script. And I could go so much further into this process, but scripting is really where everything kind of comes together. And I always script like I talk. Never script like, I never consult ChatGPT on formulating the whole thing. It might be good at making it more concise, but I want it to sound like me, like a real person, which I think is really important. And then once you have a couple of videos that you scripted, I usually just sit down, I record. I might go off the cuff since I've practiced using scripts a lot and I have my messaging quite condensed and quite narrowed down. But it's usually scripting, sitting down, recording, and then editing or sending to an editor. And in terms of tools, I am really boring like that. I use like Google Drive, Excel, and Google Docs. I don't use, I know I could probably be using Notion, but I don't know, I'm such a Google Docs kind of gal. And that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yes, whatever works for you, right?
Right,
So what I
right.
took out from this is like scripting. I think that's really important, like to know, like, the script of your video. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And many people, I think a lot of people misunderstand scripting. So
Hmm.
scripting is more about visualizing the structure of a
Hmm.
story rather than saying exactly what words you're going to say when you deliver it. So
Hmm.
knowing when you're going to talk about a certain thing in your story so it doesn't get jumpy and doesn't get the viewer confused.
Right. So it makes
That's
sense
the
for both you
purpose.
and your audience as well, right?
Exactly, exactly. If I get confused, or if
Yes,
you get
yeah.
confused saying it to the camera, the viewer is gonna feel really confused as well.
Right. That's true. So you have been doing, you said like, first for companies and now for yourself, you've been doing this since a long time. So did you ever have like a video moment where you like told yourself, I should not be posting this, but then you went ahead and still did? And what were the results? Like, if you can share any kind of moment or moments you had.
Yeah, oh God, I had so many of those. I think during the first 6 months, probably 70% of my videos were like, should I post this? Yeah, I'll just do it. I'll do it and put it to the world and see what happens. One specific moment where I had a video that I recorded and my hair was really greasy. And it was a video about, it's scary to start recording videos, but you start somewhere and then you fail and you redo it. And I had kind of the visual analogy of me putting up my hair, and there was this strand that was hanging out, and I redid it. And it's funny that a video with me having really messy hair, kind of no makeup, kind of bad lighting looking back at it, but I felt like it was okay. It resonated with a lot of people. And it started a lot of really interesting conversations because it was more unpolished, more real.
Wow, I love that.
I
I
love
think
that too.
and when you speak about like messy hair and not feeling like, you look good for the camera, I relate to that feeling a lot. So that brings me to another question you mentioned about like, looking polished, like, not looking polished versus how can you do that? Like, how can you, but of course, when we record videos, we want to like come across as professional and polished. So how do you do that, but also, look humane and, have that feeling of being relatable? How do you combine that too?
Yeah, and that is super difficult, isn't it? Because what feels natural to one person doesn't feel natural to another one. I think what I usually do with people when we're going to break down how they want to record their videos, where they want to sit, because we're working with a visual medium, so the background and everything you put in your video, it can either add or remove from the narrative. It's just the way it is with anything visual, right? So I think pinpointing how you want to come off on camera, what your vibe is, what your brand is, really understanding that it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to represent you. And I like to, so let's say there is a different vibe if you record your video in a dark hallway with like a flashlight lighting you up and walking in a park. But both of those settings can work if it works with the message. So there is no wrong setting, but the setting really has to add to the context and add to the story rather than make people really confused, because then they focus on being confused.
Makes sense, definitely. Going back to your point on scripts, Ulrika here says that I make videos on YouTube too, and YouTube, and I always script them. It's such a helpful process. It helps you clarify what you want to say and keeps everything structured and makes filming so much smoother. So that's good to hear. That resonates with the audience here. So I have been someone who's been terrified. I mean, doing this LinkedIn Live is the closest that I have gone to, being on videos. So if you are speaking to someone like me who's terrified or pressing record on video, so what's the first thing that you would recommend that we could start with?
So what has worked for me a lot, because I've also been, terrified.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
and your mind starts going places you don't want it to. So we got to stop that. I think that's step one. Start writing down your intentions with the videos and start focusing on the message rather than the way you look or the way you sound. Start focusing on how you can help someone else. So distance yourself and you as a person from it, and just think about, how can I help someone else with this video? Because when the message becomes larger than, our own ego saying, okay, I look awful, or I just don't sound smart. When the message becomes larger than that, that's when it will become a lot easier to record videos, and It will be also easier to justify to ourselves that we might not look perfect in that video because, perfection is an illusion anyway. But so focus on message, purpose, and also think about when you look back at a video you recorded, like, what will people miss out on if I don't post this? Like, isn't it better to post it and get it out there and maybe inspire someone? Like, even if it's just one person, that'll
I
be a
love.
huge impact that you would
Yeah.
otherwise miss out on making.
I
I don't
love
know.
that. I
How does
think,
that feel to
yeah.
you? Is it enough? Is it not enough? Would it be helpful? Or what angle are you coming at it from? If you think
Right.
about
Sorry.
your
I
own
just,
like
yeah.
insecurities and what's stopping you.
Right. Yeah, I think, when you're talking about like thinking about the message and about your audience, I think I'm very much thinking about that with my text post, but I'm still, it's difficult, like, with videos, I think I still have to think and like switch that voice in my head, which is saying like, who's just like, as you said, like egocentric more about how I look, how I sound and things like that. So I think that's a good start, like, just disconnecting and have like the bigger picture in mind, like what is the purpose, what is the message. And I love that question, like what is my audience missing out on if I don't share this? And then I'm doing a disservice to my audience, right? So that's a very good way of looking at it. So probably that would encourage me to share more videos now. And I know, but there is a lot of advice floating around generally, like, on LinkedIn or on videos. People say like, fake it till you make it, or like,
Mm.
act like it. But what do you think is one piece of video confidence advice that sounds good, but it actually doesn't work in practice?
So I think the idea of fake it till you make it
Mm-hmm.
is good. And I heard the science in the brain, like that it works. But for me, it never worked because I felt like I outsmarted myself. I'm trying to trick myself here. Not saying I'm like this brilliant mastermind, but no. But I think it's better to focus on something else, like focusing on the message, for example, focusing on your bigger goals and not making it about yourself as much. Because that's what you do. If you think about when you're on a stage and you speak in front of people, and I know you've done that, so I know you can relate to that, Kanchan. Like when you speak on in front of an audience, we think so much about the audience, like connecting with them, like looking at all of them. And it's kind of that state we want to get into when we're in front of the camera as well. But thinking about it maybe as a more intimate conversation, like speaking to one person. I know that even some people take a post-it and they draw a little person on it and put it on their camera or on their phone so that they look at that instead of looking at themselves. So that
Wow.
whole reframe and actually believing in something, not faking it, but believing in your own message so much and the power you have and the impact, the positive impact you're able to make through it. That's what I believe.
Wow, I love that. That actually changes so much. Like, I think it's this simple mindset shifts, like, making instead of like making it about you, making it about your audience, that can actually really help showing more, like, show up more on video. So that's very nice. Thank you for sharing. So I also often see like people say just like, be consistent, but for someone like me who have not like, very well versed with video creation, it takes a lot of time and energy, right? So what do you think? How can people still be consistent in their own ways without burning out?
So I think in terms of videos, look at your look at the big picture, look at your strategy. Where would videos fit into it? If you have an established brand, how about using videos to just like as middle of funnel content to get closer to your audience? So, and maybe you would post one video a week or one video every other week. Because what I think is really important here is that it's better to have one video which has a good message and it resonates than just pushing out content for the sake of it. And I know that, of course, with practice comes confidence, but you don't want to burn out. That's the last thing you want to do. So, whatever feels consistent for you, whether that is one video a month, two videos a month, getting that ball rolling is so much more important than pushing out 3 videos a week.
Right. So if someone were to make like, for example, one video a week, what would you suggest like they should focus on, like what kind of format or structure they can, they can work on?
So, this is a difficult one because everyone has so many different goals. But let's say we're talking about a complete beginner making videos. I would focus on the aspects of getting videos out there. So, I would focus on removing as much friction as you can and talk about things that you really feel passionate about and that you really enjoy talking about and things that come easy for you to talk about. So not making the most complicated script about some topic that you think is really interesting, but you're having a hard time articulating it, but rather making it super simple. And for everyone who hasn't posted a first video, like an introduction video is such an amazing way for people to just see your energy. And it's usually a lot easier to be yourself when you talk about something that is so close to your heart and so well known to you.
Yes, thanks
So
for
I
the
know
tips.
that's
Yes,
kind of
yes,
a
yeah.
kind of a cryptic answer, but it is really about removing friction at the start.
Right, right. Makes sense, right. So if someone is like, what do you think, like, we don't see a lot of people still creating, like, especially founders, they're still not creating videos, or maybe they do and they're not continuing. So what do you think, in your opinion, is something that is, stopping them from doing that?
So I think what we've seen before when the video
Mhm,
feed was, it was pushing out videos, like a lot of my videos had several hundreds of thousands or millions of
mhm,
views, but they were all over the views.
mhm,
They were, it wasn't targeted towards anyone specific. And I think once that stopped and the impressions went down to kind of what regular posts would get,
mhm,
then I think a lot of people saw that as a maybe that the opportunity was gone. And maybe those people who kept going, they realized that maybe they weren't making videos with the strategy in mind. So maybe they stopped because of that, because they weren't seeing results. That could be one reason. Or they felt like it wasn't as rewarding anymore because they weren't getting all of those impressions. So it can be many things. And also maybe that they didn't get a structure for it on how to make it a weekly thing. But I think that there are a lot of people out there who want to make videos and not for, going viral, but they want to build those deeper connections with their audience. And many of them are waiting for the right time. And I know just how difficult that is because it
right.
is. Yeah.
Right, especially it's good that you mentioned like about this whole trend on LinkedIn, and like I saw it too, like especially when there was when the video feed came, everyone was
Mm.
like, not everyone but a lot of people were jumping on the video aspects. But now I think with it gone, like less and less, I see less and less people doing that. So as you, like, you as a video coach, how do you talk to your audience or convince founders and creators and people that you work with to still have like a video as part of the strategy and not like a trend that they need to follow?
So the founders that I work with, they don't see LinkedIn video as their only opportunity. They see it just like I would illustrate it, that video creation is the gateway to some of the most relationship building activities you can do for your business. So that includes posting videos on social media, but knowing how to create video content, it also makes it easier to create a video sales letter for your website or to create that online course that you've been wanting to do for ages, but you just don't know how to sit down and record videos that actually make sense for people to buy into. So, and there are a lot of people who make video newsletters now as well. So I think just video as a format, like it's not only on LinkedIn, it's everywhere. And a lot of people also want to build their brand on TikTok or on Instagram. And for those platforms, video is an absolute must, of course. So it's just this big opportunity, and it's not only for LinkedIn videos. It's a tool really that can be used across a business for so many different purposes.
Right. So when it comes to your own clients, do you help clients with both short form and long form content, videos basically? And if you do, like, how does the process or your process differs when it comes to short form videos versus long form videos?
So what I do mainly is we start off with short form content and then go into longer formats. But I've also helped clients make, for example, a lead magnet with
Mm-hmm.
video content. And then we would script longer videos, like 3, 7, 10-minute videos. And there is a similar structure. Of course, the psychology behind it is really similar in order to keep people hooked and keep people watching and still feeding them really relevant information. But it's just about tailoring them really to the length of the format. And let's say a short form video, it has, let's say a short form video has 5 ups and downs, mountains and valleys of emotions that you go through. Maybe a longer video would have 10 or 15 of those to really keep the viewer engaged and feeling the message. So for me, it's different depending on what kind of format you're doing, but I do help my clients with both short form and longer form.
Right, that's good to know. So also I've seen like in your content you share about like, aligning your video with your brand. So what are the some subtle ways that a video can feel off brand even if the content is great?
Yeah. So one of the ways that a lot of the founders I work with, what they notice when they film their own videos, that they show up on video, but they don't have the regular emotions. Like they don't express emotions in a way that they do on stage, for example. So let's say you are a person who has a really warm presence in your video or in your text posts. And then when you show up on video, you just you don't look the same. You don't feel the same. And you can sense it too. And of course, you are hesitant to put that into the world because people will not see the same person. Like it doesn't go in line with the traits you're showing maybe in your text posts or in your images or your carousels. And this, I think, is the most visible to the person themselves who record the video. But of course, you don't want to misrepresent yourself because usually the person you see on video is not the person you are in real life because you're overwhelmed. You have memorized things to say. You have to keep track of being in the center of the frame. There are so many things that cause you overwhelm that that person isn't representative of the person you really are. So you usually have to put a lot of those things back into the presence before you can feel like yourself on video or represent yourself fully.
Right. So from what I understood, like, being yourself and also being true to your personality is like important when you show yourself on video, right? But if someone is actually struggling to do that, how do you think people can translate, their own voice, their tone, their personality from text to videos?
So, first of all, I would break down in words how they would describe themselves. Then I would have that person record a video of themselves. And then I would want them to look at that video and say, what is it what is it that stops me from being where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's it's very individual, right? Where you want to be. Usually what I see is that it's body language, it's how comfortable you look on video
Mm-hmm.
with your, can be moving
Mm-hmm.
your shoulders, moving your
Mm-hmm.
arms, and facial expression. But identifying what stops you from being the person you want to be on video, and then seeing how you can work on it and getting systems in place to work on it. I think
Wow.
I'm not sure if I remember your question. I feel like maybe went off on a tangent there. I
No,
have
no,
issues with that sometimes.
that happens. But no, it makes sense. I asked you, like, how do you translate, or how you go past that struggle of showing your personality into your
Yeah.
videos. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
And
that totally
also, yeah.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah, you
No,
continue.
sorry. I want to share an exercise that I usually
Mm-hmm.
do with my clients because when you're on video, usually you're quite reserved and you don't
Mm-hmm.
show a lot of emotions. So what I tell my clients, and this is where it's really good to have a script.
Mhm.
You read that script to the camera, but you read it with big emotions. Like you open your mouth a
Mhm.
lot, you react. Like when you're talking about something happy, you look really happy. When you're talking about something frustrating, you look really frustrated and angry. So when you make those emotions extreme, you kind of unlock those muscle movements. And then when you record it, not extreme, you will
Mhm.
still be there will be more movement. You will look more passionate because that exercise, doing it extremely, kind of rubbed off on the other presence and made you look a bit more alive, a bit more like yourself.
Wow, I love it. I actually took a course for public speaking, and that this experience
Yeah.
reminds me to something similar that I did. Even with our voices, so we had like a scale of
Mhm.
1 to 10, and we had like this voice modulation that we're supposed to do, and also how we break the sentences. So that was quite actually helpful when you spoke about it. I was reminded of that. And I would definitely recommend the people here to definitely give it a try. It's totally worth it. Like it makes all the difference. Ulrika here has something to say. She says making videos of yourself is so much like learning a language. Definitely. At first, it feels hard to show your true personality, but then it can also feel awkward and stiff. But with every video you practice, you get more comfortable. Yeah, that's so true.
That is so
So,
true.
yeah. So, moving on, like, we always like people assume that, videos is for for extroverts and like, people who like to put themselves out there. But I personally don't think that's the case. Like, it's for anyone who wants to create an impact. So, how do you think someone can do that if they feel like they are introverted in nature?
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
very introverted myself.
Yeah.
And so I understand that perspective. I love being social, but it drains so much of my energy. And I honestly feel like sometimes it is a bit easier to sit and talk to a camera because I'm all alone. But I also feel that, of course, we judge ourselves, right? I think that's the worst part of it. Like we judge ourselves no matter what. And I think it comes down to really being kind to ourselves. Like it's like learning a language, as you said, we're learning. And learning comes with small baby steps of improvement. So I think instead of saying, "Oh, I am not made for this," you can say, when I do this, I represent people who might be more hesitant to getting on video. And for that, I want to inspire people. I think a lot of the people we don't see on video are the people we need to see on video. Like, and I know a lot of technical founders are hesitating to get on video because it can be really difficult to articulate a very technical subject matter on video, especially if you're doing it in shorter videos. But it's exactly those people we need to get on there to empower others so that people can see that it's not just the loud people, the people who are, confident yelling from the rooftops or the mountaintops that can get on video. It's actually everyone. And I love seeing people who speak really calmly on video and not just tell people what to do, like everyone needs to be there. Everyone needs to be represented. It's so important.
Yes, I love that. It's for like seriously, it can be a good booster for anyone and for their audience, right? So it's so nice. We have another question from Ulrika here who asked like what do you recommend for short form videos? How long and how to capture people? And do you need any edits or is it talking enough to hook people?
So, okay, first of all, let's break that down. So first short form videos, I would say the videos I personally make that I think are good lengthwise are probably between 40 and 60 seconds should be enough. And that's a good place to start because when you have that messaging in place and you're able to condense something into that short of a format, you can always make it a bit longer. But the risk of making a longer video, let's say a minute and a half, is always that somewhere in the middle, it gets boring for people. So starting really short, the shorter, the better. I mean, we're not talking shorter than 30 seconds, perhaps, but, and then building upon that. what was the other part of the question, Gunjan?
Right. Other one is like, how do you capture people? I think you kind of answered that. And do you need
Mm,
edits or is just talking enough to hook the people in?
I think so. That is a difficult question, right? Because we all speak differently. But I think the more conversational a video can be, the better. When people feel like you're talking to a real person rather than using a viral hook at the start, because viral hooks, they're really like, we've seen them, we've heard them. They demand people's attention. People don't want to be like they don't want their attention to be stolen or demanded. They want it to be deserved. So the more human you can sound on video, especially in the hook, the more you can sound like a person talking to another person, the better, in my experience. And you don't have to edit it if you speak in a good pace. But if you're pacing, if you take a 2 second pause somewhere, I would remove I would remove that and then just continue with the rest of the video. So I think it's just about editing down pauses rather than, dopamine editing the whole video.
Right, makes sense. And which brings me to another question about timing, but timing in terms of how long it takes you to create those videos. Because for me, like when I tried, I tried Instagram Reels before this, and it took a huge amount of time just to edit my videos. So how long does it take? And if for someone like, if they just have like 30 minutes, I don't know, is that enough to script and record a video? What is your process? Like you ran through your process, but in terms of the timing?
Yeah, yeah. Half an
Yeah.
hour should be enough if you're not making a very, very extensive edit.
Mhm.
So usually for me, it would probably take 3 minutes to write down a rough script, and then maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes to record if I'm doing a
Mhm.
retake. And then I would probably edit that video in, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes if you're putting video over or image overlays and
Mhm.
stuff, it takes a bit longer. But there, I think it's important to see, do I want to edit this myself or do I want to outsource it? What's better for the time I have available? So that is always a good question.
Right. Makes sense.
So
Right.
yeah, it's difficult to say because usually I get a vibe. I have a slot in my schedule. I sit down, I record a couple of videos. I make sure to feel passionate beforehand. Obviously, passion has to be there. Fire has to be there. But then I just go. And I'm okay with if only, 3 out of 5 videos were good enough. Because I sat there, I put in the time, I put in the reps, and I know I got better from it and I'll do better next time.
Right. So that brings me to another question about do you batch produce or do you make the videos
Mhm.
on the go? And what's your take on like, how people can structure their video, where it's less exhausting for them?
So there are two ways to do this. There is the way where you have a teleprompter and you make it more of an automated process. And there is the process where you have scripts that you look at on your desktop. So let's say this would be my phone camera, and I would look at this and I would deliver the script, the first sentence. Then I would look at my computer, look back, I would say the second sentence. It's more of a manual teleprompter, right? It's not a real time teleprompter. But using a teleprompter, you will usually be able to record a lot quicker. But you will be more, I don't, I don't remember the word in English. You will be, you'll be used to recording with a
Mhm.
teleprompter. Let's just say that. So it will be more difficult for you to record straight to the camera or having a script written down somewhere. So it depends on what road you want to go, but I would ideally have to say pick one of those. So if you're really short on time, use a teleprompter and get the habit of using it. I remember my client, he was able to record 11 videos in 18 minutes using a teleprompter. And they were really good because he's relying on the teleprompter to feed him what he needs to say, and he can focus on the expressions and really delivering it with passion. So that is the quickest way if you
Mhm.
can manage to work it out with the teleprompter. But otherwise, the other way with the script written down is always also a really good way to do it.
Right. And do you produce them all together or do you do it like on the go?
I usually produce my videos, a couple of them at the time. Usually
Mhm.
it's when I've been, maybe I've been on a meeting and I feel like, okay, my hair is looking a bit extra fine today. So I'll just sit down and maybe I got a really good idea from that meeting. When I feel inspired and when I feel that spark, and if I'm having a bad day or hair day, it's just putting it up in a slick bun. Nobody will notice. But I think it's passion. For me, it's passion driven. And when I get that passion and know I have a slot in my calendar, I just sit down and record because I have everything ready already. That's a really good way
Mhm.
to make yourself be able to create content easily, to have everything set up. So you can just sit down, press record, and you're ready to go.
Right, I love it. And it's also about the hair.
It's sometimes, but my best tip for everyone who feel like they needs to have a really good hair day to record is just like put it up in a slick
Sleep.
ponytail. Works every single time. Every time I have dirty hair and I'm gonna shoot a video, you know, I'm wearing a tight ponytail.
Thank you for spilling the bills on that. Right. So what do you think are some of the common things that people like, overthink or think too much, like, while they're recording their video, which actually doesn't matter, like.
Okay, yeah. Pronouncing things wrong or
Yeah.
saying the wrong words. This was, especially as a non-native English speaker, I was so cautious about this before. And I was like, oh, I said this word wrong or I pronounced this wrong. Now I just put the right word in the captions and I just post it. It's also a really good way. It's like a form of therapy, accepting that this wasn't perfect and it is okay. Like you can still post it. People will understand. And if there's anyone commenting on like, "Oh, there is a mistake there." Yeah, but why do you feel like you need to care? You understand what I'm saying, right?
Mhm.
So if anyone decides that it's, they want to be troll and comment about it, it's really their problem.
Right. Scott here says I'll have to try the ponytail trick.
It is a
Yes,
good
let
one.
us. Yeah. Right. So like if someone is like watching videos, like they really want to start using videos and they have not been doing it, what's one small tiny step that they can do today to move closer? Maybe it's actually mindset shift, or it could be actually, tactical tips that they can apply to actually make them one step closer to thinking, okay, yes, I can do this.
So it depends on what kind of person you are.
Mhm.
I would say one thing for me, I was very self-conscious in the beginning about the way I looked. And for me, that was such a thing that I couldn't kind of get past it in the beginning. I felt like I saw people with really good lighting, for example, and I was like, I want that. I want that lighting. So for me, really, the first step was getting lights or finding a spot where I can record that I felt like, okay, I can kind of light myself up, look as I would in real life. Because I mean, just a ring light, doesn't look flattering on me. It doesn't make me look like I do in real life, for example. So finding your lighting setup might be one of those things that actually makes you a bit excited to see like, okay, I look like I do in reality. I can feel like I feel good. I feel ready. I'm ready to record. That could be one of those really small things that makes the difference. But that's
Right.
just me. It might not be
Yeah.
everyone. I know it's not everyone, but for me, that was a massive thing. And I have
Yeah, I
tons of tips on that. So if anyone wonders, they can reach out.
perfect. But I think that really makes a difference. For me, I think it was buying a mic because I realized like my voice really echoes when I was going in meetings as well. And I thought
Mm.
that's really important when I show up on camera. So that was like one tiny step I could take to like, be more confident on camera. So that really makes all the difference for sure. So I would like to go back on the questions where we're talking
Yeah.
about trends on LinkedIn and like, video is just for not for LinkedIn, but just to form that connection across any platforms. But what about people who already have videos on TikTok for example, or on Instagram? So do you think the videos work the same way on LinkedIn, the way they work on TikTok or Instagram? And like, what are the things that we need to keep in mind? Because for I know, for example, like text post doesn't perform the same way. Like I've before being on LinkedIn, I spent a lot of time on Instagram, and I was not seeing the kind of traction that I saw on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn
Mm.
has a very, I would say like a LinkedIn lingo that you need to
Yeah.
know. Does that apply to the videos as well?
So I think, of course, it applies to videos in the sense that you want your text posts and
Hmm.
your videos to sound like they're from the same person.
Right.
So if I were posting on Instagram, maybe I would have a different tone than I do on LinkedIn. The same as if you have a personal account on Instagram, you will not post the same content on LinkedIn as you would there because you're targeting someone else. So Instagram would be targeting your friends. Targeting is really the wrong word here. Like you're just putting things out for your friends and family to see. It's more of a community and family networking platform for friendships. While if you use it that way. Well, on LinkedIn, of course, you want to be attracting your ideal clients, collaboration partners, investors, whatever you are looking for. So there you just need to make sure that the language and what you put out reflects what you want them to see to understand that you align with them. So it's
Right.
difficult to say exactly
Mhm.
what you should do, but just keep in mind that if it's for your business, of course, that content should serve your business goals, just like your posts do, your text posts.
Right, right, makes sense. And also, like for people who are like solopreneurs or like, the only founders, like the only people in their company,
Mm.
and most often solopreneurs, they have to wear multiple hats. So, what do you think how can they incorporate video creation or video making in the process, which is still, sustainable for them in the long run?
So I would say learning how to do it, learning how to make videos, and then maybe set up one time a week, like one slot of an hour a week or 2 hours. Like every other week, you write the scripts, every other you record videos to really make it like something you can make within a specific amount of time. Just like you do with your text posts, you write them, you prepare them, they're done. Because if you do it too much off the cuff, you will not form a habit in the beginning. And I think it's so important to form the habit and empower yourself through that habit. And once you have that in place, you can start going off the cuff and maybe record a video when you're, on your way from a meeting, for example, holding up your phone. But forming a habit is way more important than posting a lot of videos, for example. Making it sustainable is the most important thing because just like a text post won't give you results right away, video is also a long-term game, no
Right,
matter how you
right.
use it.
That's so true. And also in the beginning, you mentioned about storytelling, and I also call myself the spicy storyteller. So that's a really interesting topic for me. So how do you incorporate storytelling into your video creation process?
So what I like to do is in a story, let's say you have a script, but with every video, you have two stories. You have the story that you tell in words, and you have the story that you tell in emotions and your body language. And body language holds such a massive power over your message. And delivery is really important. So, what I like to do when I write a script, I like to look at the emotions that naturally occur in it. Let's say we have a pain point at the beginning. That's frustration. Then we have the resolution to that pain point later on in the video. That's when the audience feels empowered when they watch. If we look at our script, identify the emotions in it, and then reflect those in our body language, we will automatically deliver a much more captivating story. So that's the way I look at incorporating emotions. And yes, it might sound like methodological, like very strict, but it's a way to make it easier to digest when you're there in the moment. Because nothing feels natural on video at the beginning. So having a method for it makes it so much easier. And then after a while, it will come naturally. But at the beginning, don't expect yourself to be a natural at it. Break it down, make it easy. And then you'll see that you will want to do it even more.
Right. It's all about the practice in the end,
Yeah.
right? So,
So,
yeah. So, anyways, we're coming to the close of the session. I have one last question for Eileen here. And in the audience, if you have any questions, so this is the time now to ask, and maybe I can bring it forward. So, before we wrap up, Eileen, I have one last question that is, what is one spicy tip you have for the audience that they could start implying right away?
okay. I don't know how spicy it is,
Yeah.
but okay. Start becoming obsessed with seeing yourself on video. Now, this is not you becoming like not in a toxic way, but usually when we look at ourselves, we see something we don't like on video. So start seeing all the good things and whenever you look at a video of yourself, think that this is a person who takes action. This person is taking the necessary actions to build my business better, to become better at what I do, to be able to, accomplish more. Because when you look at it that way, it will shift the way you look at video content and video creation and yourself on video altogether. So when you become obsessed with it and start loving it, like look at all the things you love about it. Maybe your eye contact is really good. Maybe your energy is really good. Maybe you had something cool in the background. Like make your brain focus on the good things. Make your brain focus on self-love, and acceptance comes with that as well. That's my
Wow.
best tip.
I think that was extra hot, honestly. So that's a really good tip. And I'm after this, I'm gonna go back to the replay and gonna be extra obsessed about myself and notice the things that
Yes.
went right. So love that. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for today. I at least learned a lot, and I hope the audience here learned a lot. And they, if they are not already making videos, then probably this session would help them to be take them little step further and one step closer to creating videos. And the session will be for those who will watch later, or if you want to watch it again, it will be visible under my name or events, and you can watch the replay again if you want to. And this, as I mentioned, is the week 3, and on week 4 we have Yuela on board who will be talking about how to package your high ticket offers. So, anyways, thank you so much for joining us today, and it was really helpful. And Eileen, do you have any extra, like any parting words for the audience here today?
I just want to thank you for being here, and I want to encourage you all to start creating bite size, just a small video here and there. An introduction video is the best place to start. And remember acceptance and just like seeing that every little step of progress is important here. So just be kind to yourself. Make your inner voice kind, and you will see that everything is a lot easier. Not only video creation, but everything in life.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you
But yeah,
too.
yeah. Bye bye. See you. Have a nice rest of the
Bye.
day. Bye. Bye.